Temperatures tomorrow will be ranging between around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius for northern areas and closer towards 22 to 24 in the south. As we move into Tuesday, we are going to be seeing another frontal system gradually push its way in from the west, still bringing that sort of changeable, unsettled theme. More longer spells of rain possible across western regions in association with this. Areas to the east may manage to stay dry, but there will be a lot more cloud around on Tuesday in general. And a slight shift in wind direction to a southwesterly means we're going to be feeling in some more humid conditions, and those temperatures may just pick up a little bit as well. The rest of the week continues that changeable theme. Showers, longer spells of rain, maybe even some thunderstorms at times. Bye-bye.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good evening, it's 11 p.m, I'm Ben Leo, and this is Ben Leo Tonight, late edition in the papers tomorrow. One story, of course, dominating the front pages this evening as the world responds to President Trump's attacks on Iran.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Well, that comes, of course, as our own Prime Minister warns of escalation risks as the terror threat in the UK rises. But isn't he left looking just a little bit silly tonight?
You feel foolish, frustrated that he's not listening?
Well, it's clearly a fast-moving situation.
Good evening to you. And the big breaking line in the past 10 minutes or so, President Trump has directly contradicted his Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth, who earlier in the day said America wasn't really interested in a long war in the Middle East, or indeed regime change. President Trump has just taken to his Truth Social website to say it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Make Iran great again. We'll discuss that in just a tick with my panel. Joining me this evening, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, the former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and a warm welcome to the comedian and former headliner Paul Cox. First, though, let's get your news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Your latest news headlines from the GB newsroom. President Trump has said this evening that America had a spectacular military success yesterday, taking the bomb right out of Iran's hands. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has warned Iran against retaliation following US strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, saying such an action would be the worst mistake they've ever made. After weeks of preparation, US officials say the mission, which has been codenamed Midnight Hammer, obliterated Iran's nuclear ambitions but did not target any troops or civilians. Iran's Atomic Energy Agency said that nuclear sites are quickly being rebuilt, with activity to continue with greater power. The US said 3 key sites, Natanz, Isfahan and Fordo, sustained extremely severe damage. And new footage shows the Natanz and Isfahan sites before and after those strikes. More than 125 military aircraft took part in the offensive, which has been described as the largest B-2 operational strike in US history. Iran earlier labelled the strikes as outrageous, with everlasting consequences. As Vice President J.D. Vance said that the US is not at war with Iran, but it is at war with its nuclear programme. The United Nations Security Council is currently holding an emergency meeting to discuss the ongoing situation. Well, the UK permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Dame Barbara Woodward, has just spoken at that meeting and once again called for de-escalation.
This is a pivotal moment for the region. A further spiral of conflict poses serious risks to regional and international peace and stability. Our foremost priority must now be to support de-escalation. The United Kingdom did not participate in US or Israeli strikes. But military action alone cannot bring a durable solution to concerns about Iran's nuclear programme. My Prime Minister has been clear. We urge Iran now to show restraint, and we urge all parties to return to the negotiating table and find a diplomatic solution.
Israel and Iran have continued to attack each other today as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is close to achieving its goals of destroying Iran's nuclear programme and ballistic missiles. He added that Israel won't be dragged into a war of attrition, but that his country won't end their campaign against Iran prematurely. It was reported earlier that Israel struck targets in 10 cities across Iran, and it's been confirmed that a brigade chief, 3 officers and 2 soldiers have been killed in an Israeli attack in western Iran. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, said that Israel will continue to meet any Iranian attacks with overpowering righteous force, adding that the world is a safer place following America's strikes. Iran reportedly launched its most significant attacks on Israel since the conflict was renewed last week. And to domestic reaction, the leaders of the UK, France and Germany have issued a joint statement urging Iran not to destabilise the region as they reiterated their own commitment to peace and affirmed their support for the security of Israel. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said that he's spoken with counterparts in Iran and Israel to stress the need for de-escalation. And earlier on, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer urged Iran to negotiate with the US.
It is important that we now de-escalate the situation, stabilise the region, and get the parties back around the table to negotiate. And I've been speaking with international leaders this morning to that end. So I want to reassure the British public that we're doing everything we can to stabilise the situation, to de-escalate the situation, and to get to a negotiated outcome. But I'm very clear in my own mind that Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. That is the greatest threat to stability in the region.
Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. We'd start with some breaking news from the past 15 minutes or so. In actual fact, it's a biggie. In the last few minutes, Donald Trump has called for regime change in Iran. I'm joined now by Asha Castlebury, who's a Middle East expert, and she was a senior advisor in the Biden-Harris administration. Welcome along to the show. Thank you for joining me, Asha. Let me just, for the sake of the viewers, just read the Truth Social post that President Trump has just posted. He said, quote, "It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA, as in MAGA, but Iran, make Iran great again." Asha, this directly contradicts the Secretary of State for Defence, Pete Hegseth, who was saying earlier today, and indeed JD Vance, the Vice President, who was saying these are isolated strikes on Iran. We don't want a protracted war in the Middle East, and we hope we can resolve this without regime change or anything akin to, say, Iraq 2003.
Well, I'm not surprised. In the Trump administration, what you'll notice amongst the leadership is that there's always this moment where there's a lack of consensus in terms of intelligence reports or guidance as far as how to move forward in a conflict. We saw that not too long ago between Tulsi Gabbard and President Trump, and now this is the latest development. So with regards to regime change, I mean, once again, this is not necessarily a political interest on both sides of the aisle. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But for the most part, I think it's just another tactic that President Trump is using to bring the Iran to the table as far as resolving this through the diplomacy.
Oh, interesting. So you don't particularly believe he's genuine here? You think he's saying this rhetoric as some sort of bargaining tool or applying some pressure?
Yes. In fact, I agree with your leadership that just recently said that de-escalate and come to the table. And right after the recent strikes, President Trump mentioned come to the table, while using the aggressive rhetoric, indicating that if you continue to be engaged with retaliation, we will retaliate back, and it's an easy way to move forward with.
Asha, you were a senior advisor in the Biden-Harris campaign, of course. If we lived in a different universe, different dimension, and Kamala Harris had won that election, what do you think she'd be doing now in response to this Iran situation?
I strongly believe that President Harris, if she was president at this time, would be in pursuit of diplomacy, maximizing diplomacy as much as possible, but also maintaining deterrence, ensuring that the American people are safe. As you can see, we have a lot of U.S. military assets, U.S. troops, diplomats, American civilians throughout the region. So I think that will be the priority, is to de-escalate, utilize diplomacy, and also protect the American people in the region.
OK, and what is word on the street in terms of Washington and the Democrats? What are the likes of Kamala Harris saying? Joe Biden, I mean, is he even around Biden? What's he doing these days?
Oh, as far as President Biden, well, he was just recently at the Juneteenth event celebrating or recognizing the holiday. But also, I think that what we're seeing probably behind the scenes is that they're helping to engage with the American people, or promoting to de-escalate and work very closely with Congress as far as addressing this issue. America needs a bipartisan consensus on this issue. So I think that that's where they are right now, as far as urging for a bipartisan consensus, also working along with the international community to move forward with this issue.
So just to clarify, are the Democrats in America getting on board with President Trump? Is this a unified America, that we saw perhaps in the wake of 9/11? Or are there arguments, are there calls for Donald Trump to change course?
There's definitely a disagreement. We are seeing from the Democratic Party that they do not support the recent strikes. And they, in fact, believe that this is provoking a further conflict or deepening the conflict. Instead, they would like for President Trump to maximize diplomacy. So we are seeing that repeatedly. The Dems are definitely not in support of these strikes or any aggression in terms of defense, more maximize diplomacy.
OK, Asha, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Really appreciate it. Asha Castlebury, you're a Middle East expert and you were a senior advisor in the Biden-Harris administration. Have a good day. Thank you. Right, back with my panel now. The incoming comedian Paul Cox, former headliner. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, Ben.
Great story to join us on. Chloe Dobbs is still here and, of course, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Paul, what's your take? This is a big development, I think, in
it's a huge
story.
development because it contradicts everything the rest of his staff are saying. I mean, the acronym for Make Iran Great Again is something I'm going to have to make sure I get right on a very regular basis, Ben, because that could go terribly wrong. The idea that the contributor there that was saying that Kamala Harris could have done this differently, well, they would have done differently, but Kamala Harris couldn't lead a flannel into an armpit, Ben. So I don't think that she would have done anything particularly to help the situation. She would have the Democrats definitely would have done it differently. Trump, you know, he's unpredictable, and we find ourselves in a situation now where we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen next.
Let me just read this tweet again before I get Bill's assessment. I know what Bill's going to say. He's going to say he's erratic and he's wild and so on and so on. But
I know what you're going to say, Ben.
We'll hear it from the horse's mouth. So President Trump just posted this on Truth Social. It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA. Make Iran great again. Bill,
he's not only contradicting the Defence Secretary, he's contradicting himself, because he said this morning it's not about regime change. And the problem with this is, and, you know, I was a Foreign Office Minister for 4 years, and what I learnt is, in international relations, you need, particularly when you're dealing with your foes, you need predictability. And our enemies are not getting that predictability from Trump. And I know you will argue, oh, well, that's part of his skill set. I don't think there's any evidence that that skill set works. And the risk is, when you're dealing with nations, and, you know, Iran has got friends who've got nuclear weapons, the miscalculation that can take place could be colossal and end all of us. And I just think it's really concerning.
I mean, I certainly agree with you that Trump is unpredictable and that absolutely comes with its problems. But what I will say is that I am very happy to see this change of tune, because I was honestly quite disappointed when I heard them saying this morning, oh, this is just about the nuclear facilities, we're not really interested in regime change, because I'm thinking, I'm so excited because there are all these Iranians who are in the streets celebrating essentially the end of the regime because they think that that is about to come. And then Trump and his administration have said, oh, we're not really interested in that, it's just the nuclear facilities. I am absolutely desperate for the Iranians, especially the women there who, you know, are blinded if they show their hair, can be tortured, imprisoned. I am desperate for them to be.
Yeah, no jokes about Iran in case they're watching. I mean, Bill, the thing is, with regards to the left view on this, are you... At no point you're defending Iran, are you?
No, I've got absolutely no grief for Iran. It's a horrific regime.
So, regime...
And I would like to see regime change.
Great. You sound like Donald Trump.
But the risk of what Trump is doing is that he reinforces the regime and that others will come in support of that. I mean, you know, the Iranians already announced, and we discussed this in the last section, that they're going to close the Straits of Hormuz. That's a huge channel for the Chinese. What are the Chinese going to do in response to this? This is so unpredictable. It is massively dangerous.
I'm not convinced that Iran has the support that many people believe that they do. Why on earth would you support Iran?
No, I'm not saying that. And I think, you know, it is the weakest the Iranian regime has been, and there was growing rebellion. But I think potentially what Trump has done is to push that rebellion down. And, you know, in a time of crisis, people rally round the flag and they rally round the regime. And I think that's a risk of what will happen now.
But I really don't think that is what is happening. As I said, you've got Iranians all now finding the confidence to speak out who previously would be terrified to do so. They feel that the regime is weak enough now that they can finally speak up and say, yeah, I'm a woman who wants to let my hair down. Deaf to comedy, they are shouting on the streets. They never would have shouted that before. Someone put out a video where they are holding the Iranian flag with the Israeli flag, putting out a video speaking, saying thank you so much to Israel. They never would have done that before, but they see that the regime is weak now. And it's really... this anti-regime movement in Iran seems to be really building, but it seems like you're suggesting the opposite. And I don't really understand the
I'm
basis
just
for
really not convinced that the regime will fall as a result of this. And I think that, you know, the massive unpredictability, you know, and one of the really dangerous things that I think Trump said was, we're not going to take out the supreme leader at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I love it.
Well, OK then, Ben, bring it on, because what he's doing is giving licence to rogue regimes across the world to target him and other Western leaders.
Bill, they're targeting him anyway.
Why would you tell him, oh, by the way, I'm going to come kill you on Tuesday at 11 o'clock and I'm going to find you here? Because then they'll avoid it, right? There has to be a degree of unpredictability. I mean, there was that hilarious moment when the journalist asked him about, oh, are you going to bomb the nuclear facilities before it happened? And he joked with the journalist and said, oh, yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly where it is just so that you can all be there. Of course he wouldn't tell all.
But we're talking at cross purposes, Chloe. I am not in favour of targeted assassinations of political leaders wherever they sit.
Well, the Ayatollah Supreme Leader of Iran?
No.
You don't want to see him assassinated?
No, because it will give a precedent for attacks on Western leaders, and the world will become a much more dangerous place.
Bill, I tweeted this earlier.
They've tried to kill Trump already.
Guys, I tweeted this earlier. President Trump has already, in his 1.5 terms as president, he defeated ISIS, he killed Soleimani in a drone strike, he killed al-Baghdadi, he's bombed al-Shabaab multiple times in Somalia, he's bombed the Houthis, he's now bombed Iran. This guy isn't afraid of jihadis and what they might do.
I'm not talking about jihadis, I'm talking about
the Iranians are jihadis.
Leaders of countries. And I think it is a very, very dangerous precedent.
Iran isn't... The Iranian regime is not a proper country. The Iranian regime isn't a proper operation. They're not a serious country. They're a death cult. They kill dissidents. They kill women. They fund proxies all across the world. They've got terror cells. It's not Switzerland.
They are appalling.
We're doing a bunch of jihadis.
They are appalling, but they are there. And what you need to do is to take... No, what you need to do is to take the right actions. I'll tell you what really concerns me. You know, he's actually gone in. He has bombed the nuclear facilities. It is not at all clear that that has actually removed the nuclear capability, and the risk is the Iranians come out the other side, they've still got the nuclear capability, and they're now massively determined to develop it.
Well, let's keep bombing them.
It will have at least delayed their ability to have a nuclear bomb for several years.
I think that, Bill, I think, against your better judgment, you would actually support what Trump's doing. It's just because Trump's doing it. Because I don't think... I genuinely don't believe, Bill, that you would want the Ayatollah and the Iranian regime to succeed in any way. It goes against the left principles of absolutely everything. It goes against the Western cultural principles of absolutely everything. To remove the Ayatollah and to disarm Iran of nuclear weapons has to be the best possible outcome. If Trump got it right yesterday and they did get rid of their nuclear capability, then we are a much safer world right now. If Trump got it wrong yesterday and they haven't, which is, I know, the stance you're coming from, then, you know, we might as well remortgage the house and all buy 5 hot tubs each, because there's going to be a big problem. But I believe what Trump has done is the best possible thing. Now, I also can see from the left's perspective that because Trump's done it, it's never going to be seen as in any way positive. And of course, he goes about it in a way that's erratic. We all admit to that. And it's very difficult to stand up for Trump on any one of his particular tweets, because you don't know what he's going to tweet 3 minutes later. But I think what he's done ultimately, and in principle, was the right thing.
This is not, Paul, a left-right issue. There are Conservative politicians who've expressed real concern about what Trump is doing. And my fundamental concern is that he's making us all less safe by his actions.
Well, if he's not finished the job, then I say let's bomb them even harder, even faster. You know? That's it. Peace through strength. We're dealing with a despot regime, a death cult. So if it takes President Trump and America to make the world safe, I'm all for it. I'm here for it. Right, coming up, is the Prime Minister about to water down net zero to help farmers? Some interesting detail in the Daily Telegraph tomorrow. Apparently, I won't reveal all, I'll make you wait until after the break, but apparently thousands of businesses are about to get a big helping hand with their electricity bills. Back in just a tick.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Well, in the past few minutes, Meghan Markle has paid a sweet tribute to Princess Lilibet as she turns 4 today. It comes just a day after the Duchess of Sussex said she'd love to go into business with her daughter in the future.
Well, that's all it is, another money-making effort there. That's to make up for nobody buying her jam. I mean, do you really care if you see a picture of her kid or not? You do, that's it.
I'd like to see her face, to be honest.
I don't. Now, back to Diana, of course, who was a real star and style icon and whatever. And one day I can remember I complimented her on her outfit that she was wearing, and it was the same colour as the outfit you were wearing yesterday.
Bottle green?
No. RUC green, Royal Ulster Constabulary green, as she pointed out to me. She said, yes, RUC green, what do you think? And then she went into a whole, literally, sob story. She started crying about a bomb explosion there had been in Northern Ireland or whatever. She was very, very close, very connected with all of that. But, yeah, so...
And knowledgeable as well, by the sounds of things.
She was very knowledgeable, yeah. And then she went on to talk about William and Harry going to school and how that upset her, and they went to boarding school or whatever it is. So we talked about all those things. And I forgot why I was going to tell you that story, but there was some reason. But she was... it was the same colour as what you were wearing yesterday, anyway, the green.
And she was so lovely by the sounds of things.
She was film star status. I mean, you just saw her in a room and you would go...
Wow.
She's special, yeah, she's special.
And I think whoever that was speaking in that report there saying, one of the designers, I think it was the designer of the wedding dress, saying it was just clothes or just a dress, but then Diana wore it and then it was something special. Absolutely. And it became part of history. And that's exactly what happened.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. A reminder of tonight's big breaking news. If you've just tuned in, pay attention. President Donald Trump has suggested that there should be a regime change in Iran. Just suggested. He's not come out with it. And in actual fact, I interpret it as more of applying pressure, I think, to the Iranian regime. However, he's posted on Truth Social, it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MIGA, make Iran great again. That story broke after the first editions of tomorrow's newspapers were printed and delivered on my desk. Let's take a look at the early front pages, shall we? Starting with the Telegraph tomorrow, the Daily Telegraph. Headline reads, revenge would be Iran's worst nightmare, warns the US. Ayatollah told not to retaliate after Trump's devastating attack on nuclear sites. And Keir Starmer refuses to say if he'd offer military support if the US came under attack. I mean, maybe we'll talk about that in a second, Bill. Why would Keir Starmer refuse to back an ally?
I think we would if the US...
Why is he saying that?
Well, part of, NATO is that if one member of NATO is attacked, the others will come in support. I think what Keir is trying to do is not to escalate the situation and make it even worse.
OK, we'll talk about that in just a second. I quite like that line. That's interesting. Let's look at the front page of the Daily Mail. Fears the UK will now face Iran terror backlash. Indeed, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been totally obliterated by the surprise American strikes, Donald Trump said last night. However, there are fears that Britain and other allies could face a terror backlash from the regime supporters. Well, let me tell you, we are already under multiple terror threats from Iranian terror cells in Britain. I mean, 5 people were nicked the other day. The Times, Iran vows revenge on the US. Yep, good luck. The Sun, stick it up your bunker. US, Iran nukes in midnight hammer operations. Stick it up your bunker. The Metro, hammered is the headline with a picture there of Donald Trump in his MAGA cap watching from the Situation Room. The Daily Express, Keir Starmer warns of escalation risk as the UK terror threat rises. The Guardian, Iran vows revenge after US bombs key nuclear sites. The Eye, Donald Trump pushes Middle East to the brink. And The Mirror, stop now. Keir Starmer leading calls for calm after blitz on nuke sites. All-out warfare as world braces for Tehran's retaliation. And, yeah, the Daily Star, no, let's not bother with that. Oasis. Let's talk about... I like Oasis, but it's just... In the grand schemes of global war, it's kind of... Let's see it then. Daily Star, come on then. Daily Star headline, Mum might say. So Noel and Liam's mum, Peggy, reunited Oasis. There we go. The Daily Telegraph, Bill, let's talk about this. Keir Starmer is saying... Well, he's refusing to say if he'd offer military support to the US if our American friends came under attack. What the hell's that about?
I think he would, because as
Why is he saying
the point, you know, we're part of NATO. He's trying not to escalate the situation, and he's trying not to make British troops throughout the world be at risk of attack from the Iranians. And this is, you know, I keep saying it, this is a massively dangerous situation. I welcome the fact that we didn't participate in the American attacks. I think it would have made the situation worse. We need, even now, to pull Iran back to the negotiating table and to get a diplomatic solution such as that which we had under the Obama nuclear deal, where they were complying and they weren't developing nuclear weapons.
Well, Paul, it's interesting for me because it kind of makes me laugh. It's kind of ironic that Keir Starmer some months ago was banging the drum about sending British troops on the ground to Ukraine to fight Russia, which I'd argue, I know the argument about Russia encroaching on NATO territory and so on, it will be Poland next in the UK. Anyway, I'd argue that's not really our war. I wouldn't want to send my kids to the ground in Ukraine to fight in the Donbass. But yet, when it comes to our closest and longest-standing ally, our friends in America, he's now saying, well, nah, we wouldn't help you out.
No, none of us want to send our kids to war. I mean, you send my 15-year-old daughter to war, then we're all got a problem, I'm telling you that right now. But this is where I would challenge this, because Bill was saying earlier that left and right is not part of this with Iran and the US at the moment. Left and right is part of every single war that's going on at the moment. I'll tell you for why, because it doesn't matter. There's large sections of the left that will go for anyone that's against Israel without any understanding of what's going on in Iran.
The ultra-left. Not the mainstream, Jeff.
Are you part of the ultra-left?
No, of course I'm not.
Are you far left, Bill?
No.
Come on, Bill.
I've spent my political life fighting the far left, so, you know...
But you called Adam Brooks far right on the show a couple of weeks back. I'm going to call you far left for the sake of it.
But Keir Starmer's, I think, mildly schizophrenic when it comes to political policy. The island of strangers and then rejoining the EU via the back door. These things don't add up at all in terms of a sane man's policy.
We were being shafted by the EU because of the atrocious deal that Johnson negotiated, and we've got a deal now that gives us all sorts of access that's in the British national interest.
I think that whatever Israel does, even if they are doing a very good job at taking out terrorists, whatever they do always is so controversial, and the rest of the country, not just the UK but others, really just want Israel to do the world's dirty work for them. And so when it came to Iran, Israel was very much leading the charge on that. It just so happened that they did not have a powerful enough weapon to take out those underground nuclear sites. The UK will not want to become involved. I mean, Keir Starmer gets enough flack as it is from people in the Labour Party, people on the left, about the fact that we send arms to Israel. And there's a clip of Douglas Murray from 13 years ago where he predicts this. He says, there will come a time when Iran is on the brink of getting a nuclear weapon. Israel will strike, everyone in the world will condemn it, and then behind closed doors, the politicians will say, thank God for Israel.
Do you know what? Every previous US president over the last 30 years has had to grapple with this issue, and none of them have done what Trump has done. Now, make your judgment. Are they all wrong and Trump is right?
Well,
no,
you're going to think I'm mad, but I don't care, because I think, I've said before on this show, I think in decades to come, Donald Trump should be carved into Mount Rushmore. I think he's as a specimen on his own. I think he's probably going to be remembered, despite what you say and despite what people watching this will think of me now, I think he'll be remembered as one of the greatest US presidents in history.
I don't think the argument stacks up, though, that over the last 30 years, successive American administrations have all done the same thing, and now Trump's done something different. They've all done the same thing without any success whatsoever. We don't know if
that's not true in respect of the Obama nuclear deal. It was working.
I'll tell you what really works. eradicating their nuclear power their nuclear weapon capability. You don't even need a deal then.
And that there is no evidence that that has been successful. You know, there was the Defence Secretary saying we've obliterated their nuclear capability, and the Chief of the General Staff had to say, no, we've severely dented it. And he said, we can't actually make an accurate prediction until we've had the assessments over the next few days.
All right, I'm going to temporarily nuke this discussion on Iran. Excuse the pun. Let's talk about something else in the Daily Telegraph tomorrow. Sir Keir Starmer, our dear leader, the Prime Minister, is cutting net zero taxes to save British factories. So let me read you some detail here. Net zero taxes will be slashed for thousands of manufacturers as Sir Keir Starmer scrambles to save British industry from crippling power costs. The PM is to cut bills by up to 25% for some 7,000 electricity-intensive manufacturers, including car makers, aircraft factories and chemical plants. So from 2027, they will no longer have to pay net zero levies. This sounds all right, Bill, for British business?
Look, there is actually a strong degree of pragmatism over the net zero policy. We've already had airport expansions. We've had the electric car milestone pushed back to 2035. And this is part of the industrial strategy of giving some support to those industries that are electricity intensive. Having said that, the move to renewables and the move to tackle these concerns is not only the right approach, but it's overwhelmingly supported by the public.
What concerns? Climate change?
Climate change, yeah.
And where are you getting the assessment that it's overwhelmingly supported by the public?
Go online, look at YouGov, look at other polling organisations. It's about 80% of people believe that there should be action taken to tackle the climate emergency.
Yes. So I just don't believe polls.
I do think that most people care about the environment and care about climate change, but I think that is very much at odds with probably, I don't know the exact percentage, but the percentage that support the way that the net zero policy is being pursued. We have, bonkers policies where you've got Ed Miliband saying, oh, I'm going to put cement down the last gas wells in the country, when we are nowhere near in a position where we have enough energy from renewables to be able to 100% rely on them and just get rid of fossil fuels.
But what you've just said, Chloe, is not true. I mean, this is a government that's just reinstituted 2 gas initiatives within the North Sea.
Yeah, because they're finally having their hand forced and having to wake up to reality. But up until very recently and before the general election, Ed Miliband was completely driven by ideology. It would be a fantastic world if tomorrow we could all wake up and we can 100% rely on renewables, that we produce all ourselves, all the wind and solar energy in the world. That's not reality. And what the Labour Party thought they could do was promise this country net zero and growth. You can say to people, look, we think the climate is more important than the economic growth right now, so we're going to have to take a hit in the short term, but you can't have it all.
Paul, what are you doing to save the planet?
Very little, mate. I have to drive here at least 3 times a week, and I live in Hampshire, so I'm doing. No, I haven't. I have really. Yeah, I've got a diesel. I'm pootling up the A3, killing the planet. But look, we all know that. Even you know, Bill, that Ed Miliband is a zealot on this stuff. A lot of his stuff is schoolboy stuff.
I have argued on this programme before. I think Ed comes across as too ideological on these issues.
Correct.
When there is a cabinet reshuffle, I hope that someone who's a better persuader of what the government is doing is appointed.
In that, you'd be hard pushed to find anyone normal in that cabinet, though, Bill, that's going to talk.
Come on.
Well, no, I mean they're all mentally ill, mate, aren't they? When it comes to particularly when it comes to this subject, I'm sorry, but by the way, at home, everyone picks on Bill. He's actually lovely. In the break, he invites us to tickle his tummy and rub his head. He's absolutely wonderful stuff, and Chloe enjoys it. But Ed Miliband's nuts. Genuinely nuts. And I don't see anyone else in that... There's no one in that cabinet, I think, that's going to step in and say anything different.
Also, he's the most popular by far in the cabinet amongst the Labour members. I mean, I know Bill says he's not sure about that, but he's even way ahead of Angela Rayner in second place, so it's quite hard for Keir Starmer to get rid of him if the membership absolutely adore him.
I don't think, Paul, you're allowed to say nuts anymore. You might get cancelled tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Nuts. Yeah.
That'll save the planet. I won't have to drive up.
I'll save you a journey up the M20.
Whilst we're talking about words, the Sun headline today, I think the Sun leader writers are getting lazy. Stick it up your bunker. During the Falklands War, they ran with the headline, stick it up your junta, about the Argentinians.
Yeah.
So I think they're getting lazy.
Oh, I don't know. That's my old paper.
You think they've recycled it?
Bit of satire from Bill, like it.
Stick it up your bunker. I do like that headline. Well done, son. Right, coming up next, Angela Rayner might give China's mega embassy in London the go-ahead, but local residents will fight it all the way. Bill, this broke last night. Apparently, Rayner's set to approve or give the green light to this mega embassy in London, despite British spooks saying absolutely not. We'll get stuck into that in just a tick.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. I hope you've had a lovely weekend. We are transitioning into next week on a showery theme. We're continuing to see them spread their way in from the west and steadily push eastwards throughout this forthcoming night. There is a chance that many of us could catch one of those showers at some point. The heaviest of those will be up towards northwestern regions. They're pushing in on quite a brisk breeze, and that is heralding in some fresher conditions as well. So compared to the humid and muggy nights we've seen of late, tonight should hopefully be a touch more comfortable for sleeping for many of us. Those winds, though, will be quite strong at times tomorrow, particularly for the northern Isles, where they could reach gale strength gusts at times, with some longer spells of rain pushing through here. The showers will always be most frequent tomorrow across northern and western regions. Generally, if you're to the east of higher ground, so eastern Scotland, northeast England, there will be more in the way of drier spells and some sunshine. It's particularly, though, Wales into southern England where we'll see the bulk of the sunshine throughout tomorrow, and it should be a relatively fine day overall. Despite that breeze, though, giving it a slightly cooler feel, it is still worth remembering that UV levels will be high in places in that sunshine, since we are only just past the summer solstice. Temperatures tomorrow will be ranging between around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius for northern areas and closer towards 22 to 24 in the south. As we move into Tuesday, we are going to be seeing another frontal system gradually push its way in from the west, still bringing that sort of changeable, unsettled theme. More longer spells of rain possible across western regions in association with this. Areas to the east may manage to stay dry, but there will be a lot more cloud around on Tuesday in general. And a slight shift in wind direction to a southwesterly means we're going to be feeling in some more humid conditions, and those temperatures may just pick up a little bit as well. The rest of the week continues that changeable theme. Showers, longer spells of rain, maybe even some thunderstorms at times. Bye-bye.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It says there, welcome back to Patrick Christie's Tonight Late Edition, but of course I'm not Patrick Christie's, I'm Ben Leo, Tonight Late Edition. Story breaking now on all the news wires. This is very interesting. Spain will be exempt from spending 5% of its GDP on defence after striking a deal with NATO. That's according to Spain's Prime Minister. Speaking ahead of this week's NATO summit in The Hague, Pedro Sanchez said he'd achieved success for his country by securing an exemption from the new spending target, which had been billed as a strict requirement for all 32 NATO members. According to Reuters, the news agency, Sanchez had said in an address today, on Sunday, a 5% spending would be disproportionate and unnecessary. So, Paul Cox, they sound like a bunch of shirkers, the Spanish. What's going on here?
Well, I just can't... I mean, we were discussing this in the break, actually. I mean, it's obviously true because it's been reported on the wire, Reuters. So, I mean, the news have never got it wrong, I guess. But let's just say it is. That surely opens the door for every other nation within NATO to negotiate out of 5%. I'm not sure... Chloe, you were saying in the break... about when the UK were aiming to reach 5%. I can't remember when it was. I think it might be 2029, 2030. But you can't just negotiate your way out of it and say because it doesn't make sense for us as a nation, because that would be true of absolutely every nation. That's not the point. The point is you're a member of NATO, you're an equal member of NATO, and then therefore you put 5% of your GDP in, surely.
Yeah, and this will be news to Donald Trump's ears, I suspect. Another reason for Trump to put pressure on NATO, say it doesn't work, say that everybody isn't contributing their fair share. Again, this is really interesting, actually, in the context of what's going on with the US and Iran. The US have just said, screw the UK, screw the EU, we're doing this by ourselves, screw the international order. And at the same time, you've got Spain saying, well, we're not paying our 5% in NATO. So it kind of just backs up President Trump's approach, no, Bill?
I think this is a nonsense story on a number of levels. Firstly...
Why is it? Pedro Sanchez has...
Well, I don't think it's true.
But Pedro Sanchez has said today in a public address, we're not paying 5%.
Well, forgive me. Firstly, you know, the Secretary-General of NATO doesn't have an ability to impose a spending guideline on NATO member states. It's for NATO member states to make that decision. And as I understand it, they haven't made that decision to move towards 5%. But as Paul has said rightly, if there is an aspiration to move towards 5%, you cut a deal for Spain, then every other country will be saying, well, we should have an exemption as well.
Well, exactly. That was Paul's
and, you know, the only source for this story is Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, who's in a lot of political trouble at the moment.
You can't get a much better source than the leader of the nation who's saying that. He said, I'll quote you, he said, a 5% spending would be disproportionate and unnecessary. We fully respect the legitimate desire of other countries to increase their defence investment, but we are not going to do it.
But is he just saying we're not going to do it, but it actually hasn't?
No, he's written. He's
just saying
written.
This is the position I'm going to take to NATO and hope that they approve it.
In a letter sent on Thursday, Sanchez had told NATO chief Mark Rutte his country wanted to opt out of a new 5% spending target.
Wants to.
So want to, yeah.
So it's not 100% clear yet. I mean, on the basis of what Bill said, this is probably not. It's probably not 100% confirmed. I'd be very surprised because, I mean, I know there are a lot of terrible negotiators in politics, but I think you'd be an idiot to think that it's a good idea to grant an exemption for one country and expect the others not to all ask for the same.
Sorry, Chloe. Irrespective, though, he's played his hand. He's told the world that that's not what he wants to do, which is what I imagine every leader across Europe doesn't want to do either. Not across Europe, across NATO doesn't want to do either. They don't want to contribute 5% of their GDP because that's a lot of money. But that's what Trump is saying.
But that's the problem with this. Look, I support, so the government's committed to 2.5% by 2027, 3% by the end of the decade. But that is really, really difficult to finance. Right, it's a colossal increase in public spending.
You scrap net zero.
And yeah, which is 350 billion over 25 years.
Stop the boats.
Half of it paying. No, Ben.
You can stop the asylum hotels. You can stop the £22 billion carbon capture scheme. You could stop rinsing everybody of high tax, record taxes.
And do you know what? You could do each and every one of those things, and you'd still have a massive problem of financing the commitment to move towards 5% of GDP on defence.
Okay.
It's politically undeliverable.
Well, I think you just need, with many, I argue, Bill, with respect, with many policies talked about, you know, stopping the boats, the economy, so on and so on, even the ECHR, whatever, protecting our borders, it's just the political will. I hear a lot from political establishment types, and I would, with respect, class you in that. You're a former minister, you're a Labour Party member, I guess. You know, you toe the party line.
I'm a politician who held my seat in 2005 against the regional swing because every week I was out on the doorstep. I'm still out on the doorstep every week in my former constituency. I think I've got my, you know, as much as I can, finger on the pulse. But, you know, politics and government, yes, it's about political will. It's also about political reality and how you make real change happen.
OK, coming up, we'll cross live to the United States as President Trump suggests there should be a regime change in Iran. The US president, of course, has said tonight, make Iran great again. I'm not sure how serious he's being or whether he's just trying to apply pressure to the Ayatollahs. Back in just a sec. This is Ben Leo Tonight, late edition.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Just like we're seeing across the UK, the heat wave that's also been in place in other areas of Europe is now beginning to subside and ease, as temperatures generally dropping back towards closer to average for the time of year. And bar the odd shower, there will be plenty of sunshine across many areas of the Mediterranean. High pressure is looking like it will be staying in charge for a good portion of this forthcoming week, so there'll be plenty of fine weather around.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight, late edition. A reminder of tonight's big breaking story. President Donald Trump has suggested there should be regime change in Iran. Well, I'm joined now by American commentator Robert Weiner. Robert, good evening or good day to you from stateside. I say this in jest. Have you sorted your Trump derangement syndrome yet, Robert?
Ben, good to be with you and congratulations on the extra hour. I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm enjoying it very much. What do you make of this situation with Trump?
I'm not all anti-Trump. When he does something right, we say it. This was a big, bold move. In fact, it just reminded me of 17 years ago, John McCain singing Bomb Bomb Iran, Bomb Bomb Iran, Barbara Ann, the great Beach Boys song, and he adopted it and began what was the equivalent of viral then. This has been an issue forever. Trump is correct that this has been talked about forever. It's been a concept, and he went and did it. And the big debate in the city, all over Washington, in the National Press Club where I work, and all over town, whether I was at a road race and people came up to me, was will he, won't he, will it be with Israel, will it be by themselves, when will he do it? And, you know, I am convinced I know when he decided.
When?
When he saw, as the rest of the world saw, the 17 cargo trucks leaving what is it, Dofor? You know, leaving
Faldors.
But yeah, leaving there and taking the stuff away. He knew that he would become a laughingstock in the world, and that Iran was going to best him in the PR game at that moment. And he said, "Let's do it." That's how he would think.
Robert, what do you make of this post on Truth Social in the last hour or so, saying that hinting at regime change in Iran? Is he just putting pressure on the Iranian regime?
Yes, he wants a peace negotiation. I don't blame him for that. That's what it is. You know, the Iranian assistant to the top person in Iran, the head of whatever it is, the Ayatollah, I guess, came and told TV that Iran would be willing to negotiate on the percent of active plutonium that's out there. They now have apparently 900 pounds of 60%, and what we want is 5%. That may be the subject of the negotiation, if there is a negotiation, although Trump is talking as though there's zero. Zero doesn't let them have nuclear power for power. That's not fair, and everybody recognizes that.
Hang on, you think it's unfair that the Iranians aren't being allowed nuclear capabilities for nuclear power for, say, civilians?
Exactly.
You think that's unfair?
Right. I mean, how can we come out
it.
And say this is something we should have and they shouldn't? So
but Robert, they're sitting. The Iranians are sitting on just gazillions and gazillions of oil. They are oil rich. Why do they need nuclear power?
Why do we? We have the most oil. We have the most going on anywhere. We're an exporting country now. But that's the way to go if you want clean energy and electric and wind and solar and all that. But not certainly. There's nothing against it. The only thing you do have against nuclear, and my cousin did the Emmy Award-winning documentary. She was Joan Connors. She was the dean of the Columbia School of Journalism and a TV documentarian. If you know, you probably don't go that far back in the history. But I remember asking Perry at the White House briefing when he said, "We're for nuclear," and he said, "Well, France wants it." And I said, "Well, my cousin Joan did the documentary on there's no safe place for nuclear waste. Nobody knows what to do with it, and nothing has changed yet."
I think there is now. I think things have changed. The Brits look at France, not very many things actually. We're not jealous for the French for probably anything, but maybe their nuclear power stations. You know, they are self-sufficient. They are the biggest nuclear producer and user in Europe, and their energy bills are next to nothing. So if that's one thing the French have done right, it's that. Rob, one quick question. I'm looking to America over these past couple of days with pride. I don't know if I was American in a past life or something, but I'm British. I love my country, but I look at America and I take deep pride in how President Trump is leading your country. Are you proud of President Trump? In 20 seconds, are you proud to be American?
No, what he's doing with the terrible bill, and it is a diversion. This is absolutely a diversion from that, and it's a diversion from the inhumane immigration policy that he's been doing, torturing people with 60 people on a floor and no healthcare facilities, no toilets that work, all of that. And so this is a diversion. And nothing is going to change the fact that he's cutting programs for people, 16 million people off health care. You cannot change by diverting it to this.
All right, Robert, thank you very much. Rob Weiner, see you next week, hopefully, my friend. Thank you very much. Thank you to my panel, Paul Cox, Chloe Dobbs, Bill Rammell. Thank you at home for viewing. Really appreciated your company this weekend. I am back next Friday. See you then. Have a good week.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. I hope you've had a lovely weekend. We are transitioning into next week on a showery theme. We're continuing to see them spread their way in from the west and steadily push eastwards throughout this forthcoming night. There is a chance that many of us could catch one of those showers at some point. The heaviest of those will be up towards northwestern regions. They're pushing in on quite a brisk breeze, and that is heralding in some fresher conditions as well. So compared to the humid and muggy nights we've seen of late, tonight should hopefully be a touch more comfortable for sleeping for many of us. Those winds, though, will be quite strong at times tomorrow, particularly for the Northern Isles, where they could reach gale strength gusts at times, with some longer spells of rain pushing through here. The showers will always be most frequent tomorrow across northern and western regions. Generally, if you're to the east of higher ground, so eastern Scotland, northeast England, there will be more in the way of drier spells and some sunshine. It's particularly, though, Wales into southern England where we'll see the bulk of the sunshine throughout tomorrow, and it should be a relatively fine day overall. Despite that breeze, though, giving it a slightly cooler feel, it is still worth remembering that UV levels will be high in places in that sunshine, since we are only just past the summer solstice. Temperatures tomorrow will be ranging between around 16 to 18 degrees Celsius for northern areas and closer towards 22 to 24 in the south. As we move into Tuesday, we are going to be seeing another frontal system gradually push its way in from the west, still bringing that sort of changeable, unsettled theme. More longer spells of rain possible across western regions in association with this. Areas to the east may manage to stay dry, but there will be a lot more cloud around on Tuesday in general. And a slight shift in wind direction to a southwesterly means we're going to be feeding in some more humid conditions, and those temperatures may just pick up a little bit as well. The rest of the week continues that changeable theme. Showers, longer spells of rain, maybe even some thunderstorms at times. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. We have got another packed show for you tonight.
Strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.